I set out from the city of Falkreath towards Riften. Yes, you'll be surprised, but I'm walking. This walk takes about 4 to 5 minutes. Hoping to shorten the distance, I start looking for a shortcut. I venture into the forest, trying to climb over hills. Suddenly, I come across a castle I've never seen before. I decide to take a quick look around, hoping to find some supplies, and what do I encounter? A group of vampires attacks me. How is it possible that I've never noticed this castle before? I have an intense battle and continue on my way. Riften. Yes, that's where I need to go. As I approach Riften, I notice the road turning to the right. I follow the path, driven purely by my curiosity. And a new adventure begins. Largashbur, one of the few settlements where you can encounter orcs in Skyrim. I can't even remember how many times I've traveled to Riften, yet I'm discovering this place now. Why, you ask? The reason is simple. I've stopped using fast travel. I'm sure you've heard many suggestions encouraging players not to use fast travel in games. I can't say I support this idea for every game. For instance, when I played Death Stranding, I really wish the fast travel mechanics were more accessible and straightforward. Because certain parts of the game where I had to go from one place to another felt quite frustrating. In The Witcher 3, a game I absolutely adore, I frequently used the fast travel feature. This was mostly due to the way the game was structured. However, I've come to realize just how wrong it can be to rely on fast travel in some games where it's designed to make our lives easier. I learned this especially after playing through Skyrim and Baldur's Gate 3 for the second time. In games like Skyrim, fast travel kills the sense of exploration. Someone who relies on fast travel could finish Skyrim without ever visiting Dragonbridge. They could travel from other cities to Markarth without being ambushed by the Forsworn, unlocking the doors to a new adventure, or witnessing a dramatic caravan accident. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned 5 different things I encountered in Skyrim simply by avoiding fast travel. In my first playthrough, I used fast travel extensively and missed countless details that I can't even begin to list. Alright, I can already hear your criticism. So what are we supposed to do? Walk everywhere? The answer is yes, you'll walk, because these games are filled with an incredible amount of content just waiting to be discovered. Let me stress again, I can't advocate this approach for every game, but in certain games, especially Skyrim, an incredible universe I've discussed many times on this channel, you should absolutely avoid it. To be honest, I want to say that no matter how useful it might be, fast travel is a bad feature. If a game hands you the fast travel option on a silver platter, it's a clear sign that its open world is lacking. I remember heavily relying on fast travel in many Assassin's Creed games, with the exception of Odyssey, precisely because the open worlds felt insufficient, and these games were often criticized in the industry. Another example is Ghost of Tsushima. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it during my first playthrough. The story and action were satisfying, and I loved the combat mechanics. However, its open world was so weak that I ended up using the fast travel feature a lot after a certain point. Why? Because Ghost of Tsushima, like many other open world games, suffered from the same flaw: a lifeless world. Sure, you'd occasionally encounter Mongol patrols or storytellers during your travels, which was nice at first, but once you realize there's little else going on, the open world starts to feel dead. Because of this, traveling from point A to point B in such games becomes a dull chore, devoid of excitement, and turns into an exhausting grind. I could make similar criticisms about Horizon Zero Dawn. However, it seems Guerrilla realized this issue because, in the sequel, Forbdden West, they worked hard to bring the open world to life with various activities. From thrilling races that spark intense competition to combat arenas, Forbidden West offered an open world that left me with very little need for fast travel. For this reason, I always speak positively about that game. Now, let's return to the example I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Why don't I use fast travel in Skyrim? And how does Skyrim keep me from doing so? To be honest, I think Bethesda is incredibly skilled at filling their open worlds with engaging content. Just as Obsidian demonstrated with Fallout, New Vegas, Bethesda proved this ability with Oblivion and solidified it even further with Skyrim. We shouldn't fast travel in Skyrim because its world is deeply immersive. At any moment, you might be ambushed by an assassin. Searching their pockets could lead you into an entirely new adventure. Or you could find yourself hunted by the Dark Brotherhood because someone placed a bounty on your head. Encounters like these often happen while traveling from point A to point B, usually in the depths of a forest. Trying to climb a hill might lead you to discover the entrance to a cave you've never been directed to before. Inside, you might find ancient sorcerers, dragon priests, or a clan of vampires. And if that's not enough for you, during one of your walks, you might stumble upon a statue of a god. In fact, you could even be lifted into the sky by that very deity. When this happened to me, I was genuinely shocked and thought about how incredible Skyrim truly is. Skyrim, just like Oblivion and Morrowind, has a system that rewards you for avoiding fast travel. As you run, jump, hunt small enemies or animals along the way, or ride your horse, your skills improve. The more you move and walk through Skyrim, the more you feel your character growing. Your bond with the game's world strengthens, and you realize that the best insights about this world come from exploring it on foot. Sometimes during these journeys, you encounter dramatic characters you wouldn't expect to meet outside of a quest. I can recall numerous times I found a follower simply because I wasn't using the fast travel system. In most open-world games, traveling from one place to another feels tedious, but Skyrim shatters that perception with the features I've just mentioned. Of course, the open world isn't without its flaws, and they often emerge in quest design. There are missions that send you all the way to Solitude, located at one end of the map, or up to High Hrothgar sitting atop a mountain that requires climbing 7,000 steps. These types of quests can sometimes make you feel the need to use fast travel, which highlights a weakness in Skyrim's quest design. However, in some quests, you discover that taking a shortcut through a mountain pass or a cave can significantly reduce travel time. These caves and passes often house monsters or groups of enemies, adding an extra layer of excitement to your journey. Bethesda's thoughtful design in this regard makes fast travel less necessary compared to other open-world games, ensuring a richer and more immersive experience as you explore Skyrim. Another excellent example of a game that encourages players to use fast travel less often is Baldur's Gate 3. The depth of the exploration it offers significantly reduces the desire to rely on fast travel, in my opinion. While Baldur's Gate 3 might not provide a mechanic where the entire game can be fully explored without using fast travel, walking and actively moving through its world greatly enhances the experience. Constantly fast traveling from one location to another would likely cut the discoveries of events and objects in half. This game presents meaningful dialogue, even with the most ordinary citizens. To truly experience everything Baldur's Gate 3 has to offer, you need to walk through every street, explore every corner, and engage with every NPC. As you play, you begin to notice this aspect of the game, and a sense of curiosity starts to grow within you. This curiosity, coupled with the game's deep immersion, often kept me from using fast travel. Instead, I found myself willingly exploring the world, driven by the desire to uncover every secret it held. So, how can open-world games discourage players from overusing fast travel, a system that often contradicts the essence of their design? To be clear, I'm not advocating for the removal of fast travel entirely. After all, games are consumer products, and providing options like fast travel is part of meeting player expectations. However, the frequency with which fast travel is used can serve as a solid indicator of a game world's quality and immersion. Today, many open-world games feature massive maps, and most of them explicitly tell us where to go. Some, like The Witcher 3 or Horizon Zero Dawn, even offer options for auto-navigation on horseback. Additionally, many games repeatedly send players back to the same areas. If these worlds lack variety and immersion, these return trips quickly turn into monotonous experiences. Sure, stumbling upon a bandit camp and engaging in a random skirmish can feel exciting at first, especially when it's unexpected. But once these camps or outposts start to become repetitive, the act of walking or exploring loses its appeal and becomes tedious. Baldur's Gate 3 addresses this issue in a unique way by ensuring that the responses you receive from characters evolve as the story progresses. This subtle touch makes returning to previously visited areas less dull because you anticipate new interactions. NPC behavior also shifts, adding a layer of unpredictability to your journey. In Skyrim, this dynamic is most often tied to being labeled a criminal. NPCs' reactions to you can change depending on your notoriety. On rare occasions, NPCs might even behave differently based on the significance of the outfit you're wearing. While these touches aren't as frequent or expansive as in Baldur's Gate 3, they add flavor to the world and help mitigate the repetitiveness of revisiting familiar areas. In open-world games, the fast travel option is an important tool that reinforces the idea of, you can go anywhere, do anything. It also highlights that the game exists in a world with distinct rules, where the player is in control. When playing certain games, fast travel can prevent you from feeling like you're wasting time. It becomes not just a tool to cover the game's shortcomings, but a feature that helps keep the player's interest by providing speed. If you rely on fast travel too much, it can indicate that the open world of the game lacks depth. On the other hand, if you don't need it as often, it means the world between point A and point B is compelling enough to keep you engaged. So, how can the fast travel system be made more functional? Let's take an example. You've conquered a castle filled with bandits, vampires, or other enemies. After defeating them all, you reach the top and face a final boss. After overcoming this challenging experience, do you really need to travel all the way back the same way? Ugh, that would be a nightmare for me. That's why I'd look for an exit. In Skyrim, this is often represented by a back door at the end of a dungeon or a door leading to the castle's balcony. In Horizon Forbdden West, you get to deploy a parachute and glide down from the top of a mountain. Simply put, the best way to facilitate a quick return to the exit or entry point after a long challenge is through these types of fast travel points. If fast travel is going to be used frequently, I prefer it to be implemented this way. It's a big truth that open-world game developers should encourage players to walk and move more. I believe that we don't encounter as many notable open-world games as we used to. If exploring these worlds is made both faster and more enjoyable, it will enhance the game's immersion and satisfy the player's sense of discovery. After all, the core of open-world games lies in the excitement and curiosity of exploration. While fast travel can be a good tool for giving the player a sense of security and freedom, a great game is one that encourages players to go to the places they want on their own. Spider-Man has been a great example of how fast travel can be used sparingly for years. Who wouldn't find it satisfying to travel from one place to another as Spider-Man? Yes, it might not be rich in NPC interactions, but it offers a lot of freedom in movement, running on walls, free-falling, and jumping from building to building. These mechanics greatly contribute to both the speed of movement and the enjoyment of exploring the map. Some games limit the use of the fast travel system. In games like Death Stranding, Elden Ring, or Zelda, we can't just use fast travel whenever we feel like it, like we can in Skyrim. In these games, we either have to go to a travel point, find someone to teleport us, or return to a specific hub. While this structure might seem like it restricts the player's freedom, it can actually be seen as a positive feature, in that it prevents players from becoming too reliant on shortcuts. Even if open-world games offer the fast travel option frequently, they should at least require players to manually reach a location once. Skyrim is a good example of this, as it doesn't allow us to fast travel to locations we haven't visited or manually gone to first. This forces us to explore, at least in the beginning, and adds to the sense of discovery. Additionally, walking time in games could be made more valuable by integrating challenges. Survival modes, for example, not only increase realism, but also make manual traveling more difficult, giving players a more immersive experience. This way, traveling from one place to another could become more engaging. Perhaps there could even be costs associated with fast travel, like paying with in-game currency or resources. This would encourage players to interact with other systems in the game, providing extra incentives. Fast travel has become a staple feature expected in many RPG and open-world games today. For some, it's seen as a system that disrupts the flow of the game and undermines realism, while for others, it's a convenient option that fills in the gaps and offers more freedom. I can understand both perspectives. After all, who wants to walk for 15 minutes just to complete a simple task? But I also believe that this feature has encouraged developers to become a bit lazy. Relying on this escape option weakens the open world. By 2025, no one wants to face loading screens during their game. Game developers seem to have two choices: either create more creative fast travel systems or offer more vibrant open-world experiences. Many games now feel like they share the same mechanics, which has started to frustrate a large portion of the player base. Thank you for watching the video. I hope these types of content interest you and make you reflect on these issues as well. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel. Feel free to share your thoughts on fast travel systems in the comments. See you in the next video.